Moving to Australia can feel overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. The Move to Australia directory from Smart Steps to Australia brings together all the essential services you need into one convenient place, making it easier to find the right professionals to turn your dream into reality. Whether you're looking for a trusted migration agent, competitive shipping quotes, guidance on buying your first home, or help relocating your beloved pet, our directory has it all. We've curated the best services to support your new life in Australia. Find everything you need to make your move stress-free, with experts just a click away. Visit directory.smartstepstoaustralia.com and simplify your relocation journey today.
Welcome to the New Life in Australia podcast, hosted by me, Karen Bleakley, founder of smartstepstoaustralia.com. Moving to Australia with my family was a life-changing experience, but it wasn't without its challenges. That's why I'm passionate about making the relocation and resettlement process easier for you so you can enjoy this exciting adventure. Join me and my special guests as we share professional secrets and tips, learn from people who've made the move, and discover businesses that can help you realise your dreams. Now is the best time to create the life you've always wanted. This podcast is here to show you what's possible and to inspire you every step of the way. Let's go.
Let's take a moment to acknowledge the Gubbi Gubbi people, the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which I live, work and play. I thank them for the privilege of being able to live in such an incredible part of the world, and I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Hey there, welcome to this week's episode of the New Life in Australia podcast. I'm your podcast host, Karen Bleakley, and in this week's episode, I have been having a fantastic conversation with Sam, who is the founder of Courageous Girls Club. Now, Sam and her family made the move to Australia in 2019, and she has so much to share around the idea of moving with kids. But also because Sam runs the Courageous Girls Club, she has so much insight into helping kids overcome challenges, helping them be resilient, and so much more. This is a business that she's set up in Australia. So we also talked a little bit about what her experience of setting up a business is like and how you can help your kids get settled into their new life in Australia. So there was so much that we covered in this episode, and I know you're going to really enjoy it. So I can't wait to get started. So let's roll the episode. Hey there, welcome to this week's episode of the New Life in Australia podcast. This week I'm chatting to Sam from Courageous Girls Club. Hey Sam, how are you doing this morning? And can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and just about your journey?
Yeah, my name's Sam. I moved from the UK in 2019 to Australia with my husband and my two children. And 2019, I'm sure we'll talk about this, 2019 was right before COVID. So we were stuck, in inverted commas, during the whole COVID phase of the world dealing with that. So yeah, that was a very interesting time for us. And I've been living here, it'll be 7 years in August 2026. Is that the year we're in? Yes, gosh. Those 7 years have gone really fast. And I created a business called Courageous Girls Club here, which is doing really, really well and growing across Australia. So that's me in a nutshell, really,
and
Karen.
we'll get a bit more into your moving journey and moving with kids and all of the good topics like that. But just to start off, can you tell us a little bit about what Courageous Girls Club is all about and what inspired you to create it?
Absolutely. So I am a former ballet teacher and have worked with children pretty much all my life. And I have two boys, so it's quite interesting that I work with girls. So I think I'm more familiar with girls, having taught them ballet from, 2.5-year-old little girls running around in cute pink tutus. And I was inspired to run this because I noticed that childhood isn't what it was. And I know every generation kind of thinks that they had the perfect blissful childhood and it was great. So I know that there's a bit of that, but I think we also have to face facts that with parents being busier than they've ever been before and with technology being so advanced, childhood is really tricky. And I could see when I was teaching ballet that a lot of these girls were just struggling with what we might think are really simple things like friendships and how to communicate or confidence, just having confidence to get up on stage, or to have resilience to take a criticism on what they're doing and be able to come back from that and try harder the next week, instead of it crushing them and then wanting to give up. So I actually did a training course for how to run a girls' empowerment workshop. And the idea, I was going to do some holiday workshops, and then I thought, this is needed more than just a random day in the holidays for girls. This needs to be something that people come to often. And back then, it's amazing how fast things have moved. So 4 years ago, I don't think girls would have come to an empowerment workshop every week in the way that they do now. So at the time, it was very new. But my idea was, if girls can come to ballet or karate or acro every week, why can't they come to an empowerment club? And so Courageous Girls Club was formed. And thankfully, in my community, a lot of people knew me from teaching dance and my boys being at school, and people just understood what it was straight away. And I started with 8 girls around my dining table. I often say, why 8 girls? It's because how many dining chairs I had. So they came every week, and it grew from there.
And it's really exploded. I think it's fantastic what you've created. I just love watching your posts about all the different things you're doing. And I think it's absolutely essential and incredible work at the moment. As someone who's got a daughter as well, and is kind of deep in the middle of all of these teenage years and stuff, I can see just how important all of that is. And I think you're going to have really an interesting conversation to have here around both moving with your own kids and around the work that you're doing with young people as well, and how, like you were saying, about things like resilience and navigating friendships, and all of these different things really are so important with the move to Australia. So it's going to be a really relevant and really useful chat today, I think. So you moved over with your family. Where did you move from, and where did you move to? And can you just give us a bit of background as to what led to that decision and how it all felt?
Sure. So I'll start with my husband, because he has Australian citizenship. So he and his family moved over when he was a child in the 80s, and they lived in this area for 5 years, and then his mum got homesick and they moved back. And he had always wanted to come back to Australia, but it was one of those pipe dream type things. Oh, maybe one day I'd love to go back. And then I think for us as a family, we just got to the point where he was working very hard in his corporate job, and I was being the stay-at-home housewife, which is not really something that I love, I love my kids, I love being a mum, but I'm not a stay-at-home mum person. I have immense respect for women who love that role. It's not for me. So it was as if we woke up after, years and just went, what are we doing? We don't even like our life. He was leaving the house at 6:30 a.m., getting back at 7:30 p.m. We would have dinner, put the kids to bed, and then he'd have to do some more work on the computer. He'd come home on Monday and say, I have to go to America on Wednesday. And the weekends were just rammed with trying to catch up on everything we'd missed through the week. But he was so exhausted, and we've got two young boys. And he's trying really hard to be energetic dad, but he's been working 80 hours a week and international travel and all of that. He was exhausted, and we just went, this is not what we want for us. So we circled round to this idea of going to Australia because we could come because he had citizenship. And I had no idea what Australia was like, apart from watching Neighbours and Home and Away. That was.
I think that's most of us, though. That's what we grew up with. I decided I wanted to move to Australia after watching those when I was a kid myself.
Really, that's amazing. So I said, look, if we really want to explore this, we need to go to Australia on holiday. And so I'm going to say something really offensive to Sydney, and I'm so sorry because I've learned to love it. But we came and we had a couple of days in Sydney and a couple of days in Brisbane. Then we spent a week on Bribie Island and then a week at Hervey Bay. And we chose Bribie because Stuart and his family used to come here on holiday and for Sundays and that kind of thing. And we went to Hervey Bay just to go somewhere else. So I wanted to come to Sydney because I thought, if I never go to Australia again, I want to go and see those key things. I want to see the Opera House. I want to see the harbour. But I remember we got off the plane really early in the morning and we were in the taxi driving to the hotel, and I was looking around going, what does my husband love about Australia? This is awful. And I just remember thinking, there is no way I'm moving here. This
No,
is
I've got to stop you there. Where in the UK were you living when you came over for the visit?
So I grew up in the Lake
I was going to say, you weren't living in London, were you? You were like living somewhere.
Oh, no, I wasn't. And then we lived in Somerset. So yeah, we lived with hills and greenery and countryside.
So Sydney, after that, is a big culture shock.
Oh, 100%. And we spent that. And plus, I've just traveled for 26 hours with a 6-month-old baby and a 6-year-old child, And we wandered around the area of Sydney we were in, and I was like, oh my goodness, no, I do not like this. But we went back to the hotel, we had a nap, and then we walked down to the harbour, and we walked to the Opera House, and I cried. I absolutely cried that I was there. I couldn't, I was like, I just couldn't believe that I was there. So there was a very different experience, I think, once I'd got over the jet lag and got to the places that we recognise. Mm-hmm. Then we spent 3 days in Brisbane, and that was a completely different city. And it was actually in Brisbane that I said, okay, when are we moving here?
Yeah. And that's a really good point. Cities are so different here, so different. I mean, like in the UK, every city has a different feel for it, but they really do here in Australia.
No, it's a really good point, because you hear so much about Melbourne and you hear so much about Sydney, and Canberra is a different beast altogether as well. And for me, as soon as I saw Brisbane, there was a little bit, it reminded me of a new and clean Bristol.
Okay. I always liken it to a new and clean Sheffield in its kind of artsy kind of ways. Yeah. A friendly kind of northern city kind of, it's got that kind of vibe for me, but obviously with the sunshine and the blue skies.
Yes. Yeah. So I love Brisbane, and then we came to we did Bribie and we did Harvey Bay, and that was more like holidays. But that entire time we talked about, okay, yes, let's move. And then we had a couple of things to do back in the UK. Like, we wanted to finish off renovating our house. Stu wanted to get to a point in his career that he felt he'd achieved some completion, and he wanted to leave the project he was working on a bit later. He wasn't ready to leave yet. So we gave ourselves like a 2.5 year time frame to finish the house and to get the house on the market, get it sold, prepare the kids, all of those things. So we actually moved in 2019. We decided to come to Bribie because, for me, I think sometimes this only makes sense in my head. So Bribie, for anybody who doesn't know, is a little island connected by it's a bridge, but it's less than a kilometre. But it is an island. It has a population of about 21,000 now. I think it has a reputation for being God's waiting room, but that is not true. That's not the case. There's a lot of young families on Bribie. For me, when I came to Bribie, it felt the closest to a town in the UK in terms of I could walk to places and there were shops and there were, things that I could do. In the UK, I always walked everywhere. I always had the pushchair and was out walking. I would walk to the supermarket. I would walk to the post office. So I didn't want to live somewhere where it's just like huge housing estates and then like a strip mall like you might see in America, which I'd seen in some of the other places in the area. So we came to Bribie. And I'm so glad that we did, because it's a beautiful, unique place full of people from all over the world. It's one of those things you go, how do you know about Bribie? And the question I get asked very often is, what, you came straight from the UK to Bribie? How did you know about it?
We almost moved to Bribie, actually. If it was a little bit closer to Brisbane, to where my husband works, we would have gone there. But with him doing longer shifts, it was just that little bit too far to drive for him after long night shifts and things. Otherwise, we love Bribie. And just, my mother-in-law comes out to visit every year, and the first thing she asks is, when are we going to Bribie? And we'll say, do you want to go to the Gold Coast or the Sunshine Coast for a day? She says, no, I want to go to Bribie. That's her favourite place. So it is a gorgeous place.
It really is, yeah. So that is how we came to be here, really. And like I said earlier, we've been here nearly 7 years.
Yeah. So in those early days of arriving, how did it feel? Obviously, COVID hit really quickly after you arrived, so that must have really had a big impact on things. Was it what you were expecting? Was it more challenging?
There's a couple of mistakes that we made that I think your listeners could benefit from understanding. So the first thing that we did was we tried to take a cheaper option when it came to visas, and I regret that. So because Stuart had citizenship, we could just come and be here, and instead of me applying to be for a partner visa or any kind of other visa, I came on a 1-year travel visa, and so did the kids. And where that came unstuck was I then couldn't work here for a year.
Right.
And it also posed a problem. We had a 3-year-old and a 9-year-old, and the 9-year-old then couldn't stay at school because he didn't have the right to be here. And so I wish that when we'd been in the UK, we would have spoken to those immigration experts who could have advised us the cheapest route instead of us just guessing and making a bit of a mess of it. Because as it turned out, we had to go and speak to an immigration lawyer to find out what we could do about the kids. They were our biggest priority. At that point, we'd waited when we were in country to apply for our visas to be here, and we paid, I think it was $2,000 per child, and then found out from the immigration officer that was wasted money because they could get citizenship by descent. And it costs like a couple of $100, and you're like, oh my gosh, so all of that money was just wasted.
Yeah.
That if I'd have paid the money to go and speak to an expert in the first place, it wouldn't have cost as much as it did. So we were very foolish when it came to that.
I always say to people, your visa is the most important thing. Don't skimp on getting the right advice for that, because like you say, you can either waste money, lose money, make the wrong decision, choose the wrong visa. But it's definitely one of those things that you've learned the hard way.
Oh, yes, for sure. Yes. And then the other thing that we did, we rented a holiday home for 3 months to kind of get our bearings. And this is a really obvious thing that was so obvious we didn't even consider it. The house that we rented for 3 months had no Wi-Fi.
Oh.
So when we moved here with a 9-year-old boy, we had no internet access. And it's a holiday rental, which at the time was quite inexpensive. And it afforded us that flexibility. We didn't have references and, a bond and all of those things. And also we didn't know what we were doing, just like, oh, let's rock up to Australia and just move there. That's fine. So that was actually that was really challenging, those 3 months without internet access. And we ended up we went to Telstra and we got like a little box thing that you can pay, and it gave you like 50 gigabytes of, I'm going to say data a month or something, like 50 gigs of data a month. Like that's with a kid that loves to play Fortnite and Minecraft, that was
gone in. So we buy those sort of different device things when we go back to England, and like you load up on your data and then find out the kids have just used it all in a evening playing Roblox or something. Yeah.
So that was really hard in us settling in as a family, because you don't know anybody. We had no family, we had no friends, we were completely isolated, we didn't know anyone. We've got a 3-year-old who was on the go, and he wasn't using the internet, but he was on the go all the time. And the other one is like, can I just play Fortnite? Can I just play? And you're like, no. For 3, so we've dragged him away from everything he knows and all of his friends, and then put him in a house where he can't even play Fortnite. I've always said, if ever you're going to go and rent somewhere, please check the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I wouldn't have even considered it wouldn't have had Wi-Fi. But then I suppose it was a few years ago, maybe, hopefully now most holiday rentals would have it. But yeah, you never quite know. Worth checking for sure. So from your experience, like, how do children experience the relocation? Sort of how do they experience the emotions of all of that? Is it different to how you were experiencing it? Before we start today's episode, I want to let you know about TorFX, an international money transfer service that can be used to move money to Australia or send funds anywhere in the world. TourFX are offering a one-time $100 credit when you set up an account using the referral link available at smartstepstoaustralia.com/TourFX. Here's how it works. Set up your account using the link, log into the TourFX app or online platform, and make an international transfer of at least $2,000 in either one transfer or across multiple trades. Once the transfer is complete, $100 will be credited to your account. It's that simple. Smart Steps to Australia receives a commission if you use the link and go on to transfer funds. This is at no extra cost to you. This is not intended as financial advice. This is just information about the service. Please make your own assessment and do your own due diligence before using any financial service. You can find the referral link at smartstepstoaustralia.com/TourFX. Now let's get into today's episode.
Yes, I struggled to settle in for a good 10 months. I felt very out of place and was trying to not show that to my children very much, whilst recognizing that they needed to know that I found it hard too, because I do believe we need to be honest with our children. The 3-year-old, he actually just loved being here and he thrived from the minute we landed. But for him, he went from living in a small semi-detached house in a town with a dad who was hardly around, to living in a beautiful place with so much outdoor space and beautiful weather. And Stu took nearly a year off work. We were very fortunate that we could do that. So he had his dad to, teach him how to play cricket and golf and run around in the backyard with him. And so he absolutely thrived and loved it. And he is definitely an outdoor child as well. So he loves it here. He always remembered a lot of things about the UK. He would remember things that we couldn't believe he could remember, the colour of his bedroom and his favourite toy and people and what we used to do. But he was always very happy and upbeat, and he just embraced the lifestyle here 100%. My other son, he was 9.5 when we came here, and he really surprised me because our grand plan was he finished the school year in the July. We moved in the August, and then the Australian school year didn't start till the end of January the following year. So our plan was to have this great big length of time off where none of us would work and we'd just enjoy being a family and explore our new area, and maybe not even settle on Bribie. We would just wait and see. We landed in Australia on the Sunday. We drove up to Bribie on the Monday, and on the Tuesday morning, my son said, "Can you please just register me at school?"
That's not what you would expect a child to say.
No, he was just desperate. And he'd had 2 weeks of school off in the UK, and then we travelled over, and he was like, "I just want to get to school. I just want to meet some children. I just want, I guess, life to be normal." And I think that's something that we as parents didn't anticipate was important for him or for children, but actually they need structure and routine and things to be normal. The idea of having 6 months of, floating around and doing what you want was actually more stressful to him than we anticipated.
And I think it can be quite stressful in practice anyway. Like our children, we had a 2-year-old and 4-year-old twins when we moved, so we were in a chaotic era with all of the toddlers. But we found it was really helpful to get at least the twins into some kind of kindy program quickly, because we were trying to do really boring things like set up Medicare and go to the bank and get our bank cards and go and look around at houses, and the kids just didn't want to be part of that. So it was, for us, getting that routine helped us focus more on all of that setting up stuff as well.
Yeah. And I think if I were to do it again, I would do that for all of us. And I think the idea of having 6 months off is lovely, but maybe save that for later when you're all established. Because the quickest way to settle in is to get familiarity. It's to have your favorite coffee shop or your favorite park or, yeah, the kindy, the daycare, the school, those after school activities. So unfortunately for him, he actually couldn't start school for a couple more weeks because it was getting to the end of term. So he actually redid grade 4, term 4, because he was so keen to start school. So things that we did instead, there was a dodgeball group on the island on Fridays, and he was really keen to go to that. So we went to that every Friday. And it was brilliant because he got what he needed from that socially, but also running around. He met a male role model, and then we made it a treat. We would go to Domino's for pizza afterwards. Every week, me and Stuart were like, "Can you believe how cheap Domino's is here?"
That was one of the kids' first sort of things, was like, let's get Domino's. And it's just, so cheap here compared to the UK. I know whenever we go back, they say, can we get a Domino's just to compare it? And then they're horrified at how much it costs.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's really interesting. But it was great because that just became our Friday night takeaway, Domino, dodgeball and Domino's.
And that's really nice as well for you, because you would have probably met all the parents who were there too. So it just, as a family, helps you integrate as well.
Yeah. And then once he started at school, quite by accident, there was another family who started the week after us who had moved from England as well. And so we kind of connected that way, even though the boys probably wouldn't have been friends if they'd met in England. But when you do something, so be like move country, you do connect with people over that. So we connected with them as a family, and that really helped because they had another boy the same age as our youngest, and they started kindy together, and then they're still best friends now.
Oh, that's lovely. Yeah. Those sort of stories are so good. Like we've got a family who are our best friends here, and they've got a child in the same year as the boys, and a daughter in the same year as my daughter. And so they've kind of grown up since we moved. We both moved over within a couple of weeks of each other, and we met in England because we knew we were all moving over here at the same time to the same area, and then obviously met and ended up living in the same kind of area. And now our kids go to the same school together, and our daughter's best friend's still with their daughter. And it's just lovely having that kind of growing up together relationship that I think in a way, when you're moving over here, you almost kind of think that you're not going to get that because your kids aren't growing up with their cousins. Yeah. So it's really nice when you can form that through other families that you meet as well. What does resilience actually look like in children, especially with this big life transition?
Resilience is a really interesting subject all around for everybody, because I think we have a view that resilience looks like getting on with things without complaint and, just being able to cope. Resilience is messy and ugly and uncomfortable. Resilience is actually the ability to experience all of the, whether it's hurt, frustration, sadness, anger, grief, and then get up and carry on anyway. So resilience is never polished and nice. Anybody who looks like they're resilient because they're not showing any emotions, they're actually suppressing. So that's something to be aware of. If it looks like your child is having no outbursts and no emotional kind of response, that's when to have a little bit of a question mark around that and maybe take some time to have a chat. Resilience is actually, getting upset, getting overwhelmed, getting frustrated, and then getting up and giving it another go. So that might be some of the things that we found with school was there's much more focus on sport here. Not in... I'm trying to say, what am I trying to say? Not in a negative way, where it's not that sport is everything and everybody must be involved in sport. But I think because of the weather and the ethos, the culture of Australia, there's much more fun and games and outdoor sports to be had than I think sometimes in the UK. The primary school that we left had no sports fields. It was, in the centre of town. They had a tarmac playground that was shared by 7-year groups, So sports day looked very, very different than here, where we have, cross-country day, long-distance day, athletics carnival, touch carnival, soccer carnival, all of these great.
Yeah, and they're massive events, aren't they, as well? Like our
Huge.
school, they turn the whole oval. They have big speakers and music playing and big stands and stage. Like it blows you away how different sporting stuff is here compared to when we grew up in the UK.
Yeah, so I know the difference in the school was quite a thing. My eldest son is very academic. Not so keen on sports, so finding his little friendship group that were not the sporty kids, and they were the ones that were going to do the STEM stuff. They were going to go to the computer lab at break, or go to the library, or just hang out and chat. But it's that keeping on going and giving things a go and keeping going anyway. That's what real resilience looks like in children, especially after a big move. And remembering that they're not just navigating a new country, they're navigating a whole new social construct and a whole new education system. And they're trying to they might have been really set where they were and their identity within their old school. So coming to a new country where the rules are different, the culture's different, the weather's different, the fact that you don't go into a dining hall to eat your lunch, you sit on your bottom outside, all of...
Oh, and words for things that are different as well. I mean, we moved over when ours hadn't started school yet, so we got the boys just into kindy just before we arrived in September. They started kindy in October, and then they went to school in the January. So it was sort of, they transitioned into it all really easily, and just it was all that they'd known. But words for things, I remember the first term at school, the teacher coming in, pulling me to one side and said she told the class to bring their togs tomorrow for the swimming lessons, and the boys just looked like, what are you talking about? And she just thought it was really funny because they had no clue what she was talking about. And when they say things like put your bag on the port rack, which is a Queensland kind of thing, a bag rack is a port rack, a bag's a port, and they just never heard of these words. And there's just so much for kids to learn. And I can imagine how challenging it would be if you were in an established school already and you'd got used to things being a certain way, to just suddenly coming and having everything that be completely different. It must be pretty overwhelming. Yeah. So you work specifically with girls in the Courageous Girls Club. What are you seeing in general around confidence, friendship, belonging, especially with regards people having life transitions and changes?
It's a really interesting question, and there isn't a straightforward answer. We have a lot going on in childhood at the moment, and a lot going on with teachers, education, schools, parents, technology, families. So across the board, all children are having more struggles than we've seen before. There's more focus on mental health in schools than we've ever had before. Have we always needed it? We've never catered for it. It's impossible to...
Probably.
It's impossible to back measure and track those things. But all of what I definitely see is that all of the things that we might talk about as happening when we were 15 is happening younger. And so the things that were happening at age 12 are happening younger. So a lot of those friendship dramas that we might have expected in high school are happening in primary school. And girls are struggling to find their place. They're struggling with who they are and their sense of self, which is what impacts their confidence. Not every girl, but broadly, I would say this is a common theme across girls that we're seeing. We're also seeing an increase in the recognition of autism and ADHD and other diagnoses, and so there's a lot of navigation and changed understanding around those things, which just makes for I think it's great that we have much more awareness and understanding. I don't think we've quite perfected how to create the best environment for all children. And so I think that's really where we are. And girls particularly because they hold on to things more than boys. Boys are more in the moment, like, you know, we've fallen out, we've had a fight, we had a punch up, it's done. Girls kind of hold on to things and it goes longer. So that's why they struggle a bit more than boys. Having said that, I think there's also a load of parents out there who are much more aware of the impact parenting has on children and their development than we did. You know, that our parents probably the, you know, children should be seen and not heard, the end of that generation of parenting. So it's great that we have so much more awareness in parents as well to support those children.
Yeah. So if your child was struggling to make friends at school, do you have any advice for how to help them?
Yeah. So a really good thing to do is to find common ground. So try and find things that you have in common with somebody and make conversation about that. So it might be that you see some girls doing handstands and cartwheels. If you go to acro, you could go and talk to them and go, "Oh, do you go to acro? I see you do handstands and cartwheels. I love doing those too." And just try and make common ground that way. It might be that they're wearing, or they might have a Labubu, you know, on their backpack. So, "Oh, I really love your Labubu. I've got one," you know, that kind of thing. So it's about trying to find common ground with a group of people. And if parents are seeing that struggle with their children, please talk to the teacher. Like, everybody's here for the well-being of your child. And sometimes teachers don't know. They don't know that there's an issue or that they need some further help, but they can identify children that maybe they would get along with, or they could provide a buddy, or it might be that they're seeing that there's some girls or boys that they're getting on well with, that they can say, "I can introduce you to their parents," so that we could, you know, you could maybe arrange some play dates outside of school. I think just remember, that everybody's there to help. There's nobody there to sort of say, "You're on your own, deal with it, figure it out yourself." Everybody wants the children to thrive. And I think one of the things that we perhaps don't want to do is, and especially if you're from Britain, you don't want to make a fuss. You know, you don't want, I'll deal with it myself, you know, and you don't need to do that. You can ask for help and you can ask for some guidance, because it's there for everybody, and people want your children to thrive.
Yeah, and like you say, the teachers, whether it's helping put them in working project groups with people they think they'll get along with, or with seating plans. I know some classes have set seating plans where they kind of decide who's going to sit where, so they can kind of help making those sort of decisions. And I know that when we first moved, obviously we didn't really know anyone here, and you usually get like a year group Facebook group or a WhatsApp group or some kind of way of communicating with the parents. So really early on, we just used to say kind of, "Should we all just meet a playground for these hours? We'll all just bring a bit of food to share and we'll all kind of hang out." And that was really good for us, because it got us meeting the parents as well and the families, and then you could see who they hung out with and arrange more sort of smaller play dates and things going forward. So
yeah, absolutely,
some really good tips. So I know as parents making this move and making this decision, we can carry an enormous amount of guilt on our shoulders about it. And I know that I felt it, and I know that I see it in my Facebook group as well. It's you're taking your kids away from their cousins, from their grandparents, and you're making choices for them for their future. Have you kind of got anything that you'd like to say to help alleviate a bit of that guilt, maybe, or just sort of to stop parents from beating themselves up about making this huge choice?
Oh my gosh, try stopping me. I could say so much. So first of all, nobody has set out to move to Australia for a worse life. We've all done it because we believe that this is a really good move for the benefit of everybody in our family, probably especially our children. We probably look back on our childhood, or certainly for us, another thing that was certainly part of the decision, but not exclusively for Australia. The town that we were living in was getting quite difficult. It was getting quite rough. Crime rates were going up. And so of course we don't want our children to grow up where that's happening. So it's totally natural to feel guilty, and our brains, this is really interesting, our brains will always look for the negative first, because our brains are so primitive in their construction that they are looking for all of the things we need to be aware of to keep us safe. So it is by default that we will focus on all of the negative things, and guilt is one of those things. So are we going to automatically go, look at my daughter and how happy she is with this beautiful outdoor space and this amazing weather? We're going to go, oh my goodness, but maybe she's missing her friend, and oh, have I done the right thing?
Yeah.
It's totally natural. How do we let go of that guilt? We're going to feel guilty about everything. I feel guilty about not buying my son his favorite chocolate spread. We can feel guilty about everything. But at the end of the day, we've done it for the best intentions. And that's what we need to focus on. Another thing to remember is you can be the best parent in the world. And this applies to everything, not just making the decision to emigrate. You can be the best parent in the world and do all of the right things. But your child is an individual and a human being and a person in their own right. And how they receive that has nothing to do with you. You could do all of the right things and your child could still, for whatever reason, think you're the worst parent or resent you or, how dare you bring me to this amazing country when I was 10 where I had all of these opportunities and sunshine. That could happen. And that's got nothing to do with you. That's to do with them. And my final bit is a bit of advice that my dad gave me a long time ago that I always go back to. And he said to me, Sam, you cannot live your life for anyone else. And sometimes that's hard. Sometimes, that's a really easy thing to say and a hard thing to do in practice. But it stood me in good stead, and to anybody that I've spoken to and passed on this advice, it's worked for them too. You have to live your life for you and do the things that feel right for you. Because
really wise advice.
At no point is anybody come and say, oh, thanks for not living out your dream and fulfilling your, I'm so glad that you did that and kept me in Yeovil in Somerset. That's not going to. So you have to live your life for you. You really do. And
I love that.
Nobody set off to do this to do their kids harm.
Yeah. No, very wise advice. And my dad used to say exactly the same thing to me as well. So I definitely think that's really always played out in my head, that I've always tried to kind of look at it in that way. But that's a really great way to frame it as well. So can you share a little bit of your experience of setting up a business in Australia? Because I know that I've found Australia a different kind of place when it comes to setting up a business and working. I was freelance in the UK for quite a while before I made the move over here, and I really felt that Australia was a really supportive country to run your own business, whether that's grant support or whether that's networking opportunities, or I've just found it a really inspiring kind of place to allow you the opportunity to follow your interests and set up your own business. I don't know, what's your experience been like?
I would agree with that wholeheartedly. It was very easy to just declare yourself as a sole trader and set yourself up and start, selling your wares as it was. And I spent a year as a ballet teacher and was self-employed in that role. And then after a year started teaching Zumba and that's when Courageous Girls Club was starting. So it was very much just a case of put things out and people will come. And there you go, you got a business. I would also say that one of the mistakes I made as a business owner was probably very much staying on Bribie for 2 years and not being aware of the level of support out there on the mainland in Australia proper. And once I got off the island and went and explored and spoke to people, that's when things opened up, and just found people to be so supportive, so willing to help, so keen to introduce you to people, and if people believe in you and like what you're doing, they're just like, oh my gosh, you must meet this person, or have you heard of this initiative? Do you know about this grant? Do you know about this group? So 100%. I find it a very positive and embracing place to run a business. I did run businesses in the UK where I felt that sometimes there was a bit of is it jealousy, like a desire to not see you succeed was kind of the attitude, or we're going to make it really difficult for you to get anywhere. And here in Australia, I don't find that at all. Not at all.
No. And I think regardless of whether you've moved from another country here and you're setting up a business, I don't even think that has any impact here. I've just felt support from lots of different angles. So I think it's a great place to come if you are thinking of setting up a business as well. So just useful to add that question in there. So if you could give one piece of advice for families who are in the process right now, preparing to make the move to Australia, what would that piece of advice be? Narrow it down.
Well, I'm going to give this piece of advice because of my own personal experience recently, where I have a partner visa, and I did not know that attached to that partner visa is a travel visa. And so we merrily left Australia to go to Europe for a couple of weeks for our children to go on a soccer trip to Barcelona. And when we got back, on our way back at Singapore airport, I got told I wasn't allowed back in the country, to much confusion. And it turns out that I had a 5-year travel visa that I knew nothing about, which had expired. And literally at the gate, 30 minutes till takeoff, I am stood with an immigration officer for Australia, typing away, looking for my visa number and my marriage certificate and my this and my, and I'm so glad that I am the person that I am, because I'm very cool and calm in an emergency, and I have all of my stuff on my Google Drive, so it was easy to access.
So lucky.
And I could apply for that visa. I had to pay my $500, which at the end of a European trip is not what you want to hear, but I managed to get on that plane.
Yeah. Oh gosh, you'll be going through your citizenship as quickly as you can after it's happened the once.
Sure. And the reason that I hadn't gone for the citizenship yet is purely because my British passport had expired, and you couldn't apply for citizenship without a valid British passport. Okay. Which I then had to get to go to Europe. So, it's like...
I was going to say that to go back to the UK now, you need the British passport. If you've got a British passport, you need it renewing.
Yes,
so it's just so many costs involved in visas and passports.
Absolutely. So that would be my advice, is to check all of the small print and be very clear when it comes to leaving the country, what you can and cannot do, what you are eligible and ineligible for, because they will know... They will know, and you will have to sort it out in an emergency.
Yeah, you're not the first person that I've spoken to about this. I was chatting to someone else recently, and they were saying that they were sitting on the floor in an airport trying to madly apply for a resident return visa. Yeah. And I've had a panic when we were making the move over. We'd got everything in place. I was so organised. I'd got all my spreadsheets. I've got it down to like a T. I was just so calm and collected, and then a few days before we flew out, I realised that I'd changed my passport since we'd been granted the visa, and it meant that the visa hadn't been attached to that new passport. So I had to kind of have a massive panic, ringing my migration agent on a Saturday morning in a panic saying, help me please, because we're flying on like the Monday. And she was able to do it. Luckily it was all fine, but it's easy for those little things to just kind of get overlooked and lost. Oh, well, that's been a really useful conversation today. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast. Where can people go to find out about Courageous Girls Club?
So you can check out the website, courageousgirls.club. We've got clubs popping up all over Australia. It's a really life-changing thing for young girls today.
That's fantastic. And I'll pop all your links in the show notes as well, so that people can click through and find out more about coming along, because I think it'll just be a great support for people who are making the move, just to help smooth that process and help their girls kind of get settled in when they arrive here as well. So I think it'll be really great. So thank you so much for sharing so much today. It's been really great chatting to you.
Thanks, Karen.
So thanks again, Sam, so much for coming on and for sharing so much valuable advice and information and tips. I really did find it really helpful, and I hope you got a lot out of the episode as well. So be sure to give Sam some follows on social media and let her know where you heard about her. She really is doing incredible work, and I think it's really great that we all get behind her and support her with it. I can't wait to hear your comments about this episode. I think it's going to go down really well. I'm sure you're going to really enjoy it. So be sure to let me know in the comments or by leaving a positive review. That's it from me this week. And in the meantime, let's get building your new life in Australia one episode at a time. Planning your move to Australia? The Ultimate Immigration Checklist Bundle has everything you need to stay organised and stress-free as you navigate this adventure. Get yours today at movetoaustraliatoolkit.com.